Yes, how are you doing, great friends? Now, as you can now tell, I have 9 great tips for all of you that are preparing their supporting documents. And on each tip, I'm going to explain it into details so that you may understand the documents and you may understand why you should prepare it so, and you should understand the importance of it and also how to get the right document for each document. So you need to watch till the end and also pay keen attention. And without much ado, let's start. We know that the supporting documents, they play a very huge role, especially during your interview, because nowadays we don't submit documents to KCC. And I repeat that because from December 2021, on the 9th date, that submission process was removed. So if you're DV Lottery 2024 or 2023, you are not supposed to submit your documents after you have filled your form DS260. You only need to wait for the interview. And therefore, the supporting documents that you will go with to the interview, they play a greater role. And for you to prepare the right document means greater chances of success. So the first tip in preparing the supporting document is you should have a clear understanding of the document requirements. Each of the document that you should have a clear understanding of what it should look like, what it should have, and how it should be obtained. Number one, if you're preparing your documents, you need to know about the expiration of that document. For example, if you're preparing your passport at the moment, you know that the passport that is required during the interview must have an extra 6 months after the interview before its expiration date. More than 6 months after the interview. And you also should know that you have to obtain all the passports for every individual in your application. That one you should also know. Secondly, about the police clearance certificates, you should know that you require to have the police clearance certificate for yourself and also for every member of your family that is above the age of 16 years. And you should also know that the police clearance certificates should not be expired. And on expiration for the police clearance certificate, what we call the PCC, you should know that it takes 2 years, that is 24 months, for the certificate to expire. That is with regards to the United States Embassy. So if your police clearance certificate expires in your country after 6 months, with regards to the US Embassy, that certificate is still valid up to when it will overtake 24 months. So if you have a police clearance certificate that is 8 months old, it is still valid to the embassy. But the point is, the police clearance certificate for every one of your family that is above 16 years of age should not have expired. Again, still on the police clearance certificate, you should know that you are supposed to get the police clearance certificate for yourself and for your family members from those countries that I'm about to mention. If you have ever obtained citizenship of a particular country, and after you have obtained your citizenship, you stayed in that country for over 6 months. Citizenship, and then you stayed for over 6 months. You will need the police clearance certificate from that country. That is country number 1, from where you're supposed to get the police clearance certificate. The country number 2, where you're supposed to obtain your police clearance certificate, is the country in which you are living at the moment. And you have stayed in this current country for over 6 months. Then you must produce the police clearance certificate for that country. That is country number 2. And then the country number 3, from which you are supposed to get the police clearance certificate, is the country in which you once lived on residence status, and you lived in that country for over 12 months. So if you lived in a country, maybe you are working there or you're just staying there on whichever type of visa, but you lived in that country for over 12 months, then you need to obtain the police clearance certificate for that country. And for all those cases should be for all the members of your family that were above 16 years of age at that time of residence. The final country, that is country number 4, from where you should obtain the police clearance certificate, is the country in which you stayed, regardless of the length of time you lived there, but you were convicted. So in whichever country you went to visit or to live, regardless of the length of time of your stay, and you were convicted of a crime, then you need to have the police clearance certificate from that country. So that is about the police clearance certificate. And the point is, you need to understand the documents and their requirements. You need to know that you need to have the birth certificate for every individual in your application. So, understanding the document and the requirement, that is the first tip. And I did a whole video about the documents. So understand the document and what is required of that document as you are preparing your supporting documents. Tip number 2. The tip number 2 is that you should start preparing and organizing your document early. You start preparing them early and you stay organized with your documents. After you've just filled your DS260 form, you need not to wait for the interview for you now to start the activities of gathering your documents. And I know that should be obvious for all of you. You need to require the passport document, and maybe you don't have some for your family members. It is the time that you apply for those passports, because I understand in some countries passports may take up to 3-4 months before they come out. And also, you never know, something might happen and might delay your passport requirement. For example, if you're obtaining the passport for a junior, in some cases there might be some complications along the way that you need to explain and to follow up on them for you to obtain the passport. So preparing the passport documents early, that is a great advancement. Also, the police clearance certificates, prepare them as early as possible. The academic documents, you'll find out that some of you have lost your academic documents. And in some country, for you to replace your high school diploma, it takes up to 3 months. So you need to prepare early. And as you organize yourself early, you will realize that there are some documents that you need to notarize, some documents you need to obtain, some documents were lost, and others were misplaced, and you need to do this and this to get replacements. So plan early and stay organized with your documents. That is the second tip. Then tip number 3 is you need to obtain the notarized certificate for all the documents that need to have their notarized certificates. And by notarization, I mean certification, certified document by the custodians of those documents in your country. In another video, I said that you need your birth certificates to be certified. So you prepare an original birth certificate and also a notarized copy. Same case applies to the marriage document, the marriage certificate. You need an original marriage certificate plus another certified one, notarized one. For the academic documents, you need the original academic document, especially the high school diploma. And then you need a certified high school diploma for the same. I also said if your documents are in a different language and you are attending your interview in an embassy that uses English, you need to translate those documents. And the translation documents, they have to be notarized. The translated document have to be certified. And also, if you have ever been convicted and you have the court records or the prison records, those prison records, they need to be notarized. They need to be certified. And I told you the certification of documents is done by the department that deals with those documents. The birth certificate, you get certified birth certificate from the registrar of births. For the marriage certificate, you get it from the registrar of marriages, and so on and so forth. So tip number 3, ensure that you prepare certified, notarized copies alongside the original copies. Tip number 3. And then tip number 4 is verify the document validity. And that is connected with the first tip. Are the documents that you have valid, or have they reached their expiration date? So ensure that all the documents that you have, they are valid. That is tip number 4. And then we go to tip number 5. And this tip number 5 is the translation. If your documents are in a different language other than English, they need to be translated. And they should be done by an authorized body. And after they are translated, they need to be certified, and you present the certified document. So tip number 5, translate your documents. Tip number 6, maintain consistency. And consistency means that all across your documents, the information, the biological data regarding yourself and your derivatives, they should be uniform. They should conform with one another. Your names on the birth certificate, your date of birth on the birth certificate should correspond to those on the passport. and also to those on the academic documents or any other documents that you present. Conformity, they should be uniform. Consistency. And on that consistency, I know we have some discrepancies here and there. You might find out that during applying your passport, maybe one name was omitted, or during your academic documentation, your name was omitted, maybe one or the other, and also misspelled names. And there's no way you can correct that, plus some other errors. I told you to go around that problem, you need to get an affidavit. And that affidavit is just to prove that you are the same person with this data. And that affidavit has to be notarized and stamped by the court proceeding or before a lawyer or an advocate. So ensure consistency in your documents. That is tip number 6. And then tip number 7, the documents have to be legible and clear. You don't want to present a birth certificate that has been erased or it has faded out, and it's hard to get the information from the birth certificate. You don't want to submit such a type of a document. The documents that you submit ensure that they are very legible. Very legible. Give an easy time to the consular officer. Increase the confidence of your consular officer in your documents. That is tip number 7. And then tip number 8 is organize your documents in the right manner. And I know the organization of documents, you will be helped at the embassy on the first desk on how to arrange your documents, but you need to follow the guidelines. As you will be instructed, arrange the documents in that order for easy access or for the consular officer to go through your document so easily. That is tip number 8. And lastly, on tip number 9, and this is very important, don't forget to make copies. Don't forget that. And let me tell you this, if you go with only the original documents and the certified documents, and those documents are required to remain with the embassy, if you issue them out and you don't have any other, then they will keep them and you not get them back. So the best advice is you also produce a photocopy of the same. And of course, the notarized documents, they will remain with the embassy. But produce the photocopy. And after the interview, ensure you get back your original documents. Have you gotten that? Your original documents. Get them back. Ensure you get your original documents back and the embassy remains with the copies. So those are the 9 very important tips that you should take into consideration as you prepare your documents. We shall talk more and more about the diversity visa on this channel. So please consider subscribing for new ones and also like the video. Like the video and let's meet in the next video.